Howdy gamers, and as we know I was robbed. Fun times. Well, except for the part where my stuff was stolen, but the guy also left me some presents, so at least I have that. I mean, the last present was one of the worst games I ever played, but I mean, they can't all be bad. I guess there's only one way to find out. They did a good job at wrapping this. Monkey. Let me get this out of the way. I'm not too sure if I even like platformers. That might seem confusing considering I am the person who bought Yoshi's Crafted World instead of Breath of the Wild, but that was because I'm a big fan of making bad decisions. But even though I maybe possibly don't like platformers, I still love Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I guess first though we should probably discuss the plot. So basically, a walrus makes it snow and Donkey Kong and his friends almost die, and I'm pretty sure there's a flying ship in there somewhere. The plot's basic. I've literally read nutrition labels longer than the story of this game, but it's fine. Not every game needs to be War and Peace for the Switch. The main reason I wanted to bring up the story of Tropical Freeze is because it introduces a somewhat cool idea. Instead of working from Donkey Kong's house all the way up to some big bad boss at the end, you're working backwards, starting at, well, still a generic World 1 grasslands, all the way up into a final world, but it's not fire themed. Here it's ice themed. Well, mostly ice themed, but at least they tried. And I get the idea of working backwards isn't that cool, but I still enjoyed seeing this game break some normal gaming conventions. And before I move too off topic from the plot / intro cutscene, the fact that it perfectly transitions into gameplay is awesome. I get that just like the speed limit it's kinda pointless having, but I still enjoyed the cutscene transitioning into gameplay. Anyways, working backwards isn't even the only convention this game breaks. There are also no floating platforms, which you might not even notice, but once you do, it's so cool to see how everything is connected to something. It makes the game feel more real and a lot more stylized, which I get really doesn't matter all that much in a platformer, but little things like that are what make games stand out. Another thing kinda like this is the backgrounds. They are so amazing in this game. There's also nice attention to detail too, like after you beat this guy, you can see him being eaten by a plant in the background, and even better than that, next level the plant is introduced as an enemy. Back to the look of this game though, because honestly, the whole game just looks amazing. Retro did such an amazing job. The cutscenes too, everyone is so expressive. The art direction as a whole is just perfect. The soundtrack especially. If you like listening to video game soundtracks and you've never heard this one before, please do yourself a favor and give it a listen. It's too good to pass up. And if you're deaf, I guess you kinda can't, but I did hear that they are working on a Braille translation, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. Because like I said, it's amazing. The different songs having different themes depending on, well, the world theme was really nice. Just like the platforms all being connected, it helped the game to feel more real. But what about the actual gameplay, you say? And to be honest, I'm insulted you would ask, but it's solid. I will say though, the game overall is really easy, which is disappointing to me. That's not to say it's boring. The amazing set pieces and level design help the game to not be boring, as will the collectibles, but I got to 99 lives by World 3 or 4, and I never got below 90 after that, and had 99 lives for most of the game. I'm really just not a fan of easy games. I mean, come on, I love Super Mario 3D World, and have you seen the levels in that game? It's the Dark Souls of action-adventure games. Anyways, despite the fact that this game was easy, I still loved it, which should show you how good the level design is here. First off, every world has its own distinct theme, and some of them are pretty unique. Like, yeah, you have your grasslands and your water world, but you also get some themes that I just haven't seen in a platformer before, like Autumn, Africa, and Juice. The levels also actually revolve around these themes in a cool and unique way. You might be jumping from leaf to leaf as they fall down, running through a savanna while it's on fire, or Juice, but a level. These levels all feel distinct from each other, which is a problem other platformers have. In total, there are 6 worlds, which might not seem like a lot considering Mario usually has 8, but the levels here are a lot longer than your typical Mario level, and that's not a bad thing either. since it means the game can fully flesh out the theme that the level has. Notice though how I'm saying theme and not gameplay mechanics, and that's because these levels don't really try to do anything new from the last one. Once again, the themes are nice and help to make levels unique and stand out from one another, but they don't really play all too differently from one another because they don't introduce many new mechanics. Don't get me wrong, there are some exceptions, like the one fire level in World 3 or that one level with the light up fish in World 4, but for the most part, after World 1, there's around 1 or 2 gimmicks per entire world added, and when compared to a game like Celeste, where one level alone it adds multiple gimmicks like keys, sludge, which the game goes on to add more types of sludge throughout the level, moving platforms, sinking platforms, platform rearranging buttons, barrier blocks, and sludge spawning tiles. That's 5 different gimmicks in one level. As well, it expands upon those ideas in the level, fully fleshing them out, which is just awesome. It makes the game better because it keeps things fresh, not just having the same platform challenge after platform challenge with slight changes. Like, yeah, one level might have windmills and the other falling leaves, but that doesn't really change up the gameplay all that much. You're still jumping from X to Y. The levels not having cool and unique mechanics and the game being easy though were really my only problems. As much as I talk trash about the game for not introducing too many new mechanics, the levels are still well designed with varied themes to not make it boring and actually make it fun. Another thing that helps this is the collectibles. Every level has puzzle pieces to collect for a piece of art, and then there's the Kong letters, which I'm pretty sure some people have spent their lives trying to figure out why they exist. All they do is give you an extra life. They don't even affect completion percentage, but they were still fun to go after. You'll find them in hard to reach locations, but you never really have to search for them. Unlike the puzzle pieces, because those you will have to search for, and it's a lot of fun to do so. You might see something that looks just out of place, and if you investigate, odds are you'll find a puzzle piece. They help to keep you engaged, and even if you probably won't find all of them, they're still fun to see how many you can get in one level. And if you have trouble finding them, there's always the shop, which is run by everyone's favorite cool uncle, Funky Kong. In the shop you can buy stuff like extra lives or potions, but you can also buy stuff like birds that'll tell you where the puzzle pieces are, or these cool collectibles, which are fun to get. The currency in the shop are these yellow coins, which are sort of kind of hidden. You'll just get them by maybe killing a tough enemy or pulling at something out of the ground. The collectibles are pretty fun to get, and speaking of fun, the boss fights in this game, they're amazing. They're all different than the last, and always try to relate to the theme of the world, and are a tough challenge. I could be wrong here, but I don't think I ever beat a single boss on my first try. They're good challenges. The bosses are always the hardest part of each world, and they increasingly get harder as the game goes on, and same with the levels. And yes, I get that's nothing special. Platformers always get harder as the game goes on, but honestly, this game has an amazing difficulty curve. There was never a giant leap in difficulty, but the final level compared to the first is a really big difficulty gap, and it never felt like there was a huge spike. And while we're still talking about the first level, the first few do a great job at introducing you to mechanics. This game really has no tutorials, it just throws you in a level, and when a new mechanic is introduced, this pig will pop up and tell you what buttons to press. Sure, I want to beat him up for looking at me funny, but his advice is helpful. It's nice that it doesn't just stop the whole game to tell you something like Black Flag did, it just pops up once and it's done. The game is also really great at introducing you to Diddy, Dixie, and Cranky as well. The first level introduces you to Diddy Kong and shows you what he can do, and then through the level design familiarizes you with him. And then the second level does the same but with Dixie, and the third but with Cranky. Also, just like Yoshi's in Super Mario World, you can carry over your partners to different levels and even their meter stays the same. The meter is really cool. Once it's filled, it replaces all the enemies on screen with some sort of item, like for Cranky Kong coins, for Dixie Kong golden hearts, and for Diddy Kong balloons. Although, as cool as the meter is, it doesn't really matter. There's no reason to choose Diddy just because of his balloons, or choose Cranky because of his coins, because golden hearts really are the best. And on top of that, Dixie Kong herself is just the best. There's no reason to choose anyone else but her. She does exactly what Diddy does, but with a bit of upward movement, so she can be in the air for longer, which means that Diddy is just useless. You're never gonna pick him on purpose. Cranky can do a little downward spike, and it's cool that he tried, but there's no real reason to ever do that, so you're just left choosing Dixie every time, and maybe occasionally getting stuck with Diddy and Cranky. That was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and it's an amazing 2D platforming, but it's definitely not the best by any means. But if you have already played Celeste and Super Mario Maker 2, I honestly really recommend you check this game out. The level designs were just so good, and same with the platforming, but the game was a bit easy, and it didn't introduce too many new mechanics, making the levels not as fun as they could be, but keep in mind, not as fun as they could be, the levels are still a lot of fun to go through, and that's why to give this game a score of 100, I would honestly give it a 91 out of 100. On top of that, I would also give it the Best Monkey Game Award. I mean, this is just the best... Wait. No. Just remember, Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2 are both on the Switch. This gets the Worthless Game Award. You know, I don't really think I want to play through this game anymore. I'm just gonna put it over there, I guess. Remember to stay safe, and that I love you guys.